I looked up the word zachar. First of all, the zayin, the resemblance of the letter to original shape. But even when it comes to zachar, the male, he says zachar is similar to dakar, which I thought interesting, to stab. I found this very fascinating. And then he says, this is a theory, but he says the idea of memory, zikaron, is that it stabs you, that it penetrates you. Literally, he says this. The idea of memory then may come from that of penetrating, infixing. But I find the word Dakar, there's an English word too, like it sounds like duck. I don't mean to be offensive, but I feel like it's the same idea, like the tongue kind of protrudes. So basically a zayin is really a tough, in a sense, it's a soft one. But I read that there's a correspondence between the shape of letters and the position of the tongue. So in a way that kind of pulls it all together. You're talking about the two letters that are dental and then tail, dental, and there's a certain unity. Beyond that, there's a lot of words in English, especially nail, tall. Think of tall and tail. And I feel like it all goes back to the essence to the tongue, that the tongue itself is a gesturing device. Actually, this guy from Harvard I was talking to, he was impressed. I was really on track with what a lot has been said. And there's a guy who talks about semiotics from about 1900s. He was a big philosopher, and he talks about the idea of a symbol having its own icon. So the linguistic term for what I'm talking about is iconicity. So I'm talking about a letter has a power. When he's talking about an icon, I just found this, that in a sense, the icon stands on its own. And I feel like the letters of the alphabet, I don't think he appreciated what he calls phonemes. Have you heard of phonemes? Like you have FLs, a lot of FLs, like flow. Linguists have noticed pairs in English, but it's not across languages. Like you do have these patterns where slide and slip, where there's a certain essence, but I think they missed the point. When he talks about the idea of a character has its own essence. I mean, sometimes they can go against trying to define what would be an ideal intuitive language. Like I'm not saying necessarily language is, but I'm saying let's define what could be intuitive. What my idea is that each letter has its own character. He's not talking about the alphabet letters, like hey, breath is breath. That's one, you can't take it away. That's there. Because of linguistics and DTL with design too, on a certain level, they're all an extension of the tongue. Actually, even Shen, you're kind of touching your tooth almost, or the Shen, or tooth in English, or dental. So I feel like they're all of the same class. So I'm saying the tip of the tongue, no matter if it's a T or an L or N or a D or a Z, they're all of the same. And I really look at them as a group. All of those are kind of the phallic. They represent something tall. But then there's an aspect also, I look at the word talon, for example, talon of a bird. So I feel like some of the letters have more tension. I also have great gradations of tension scales. So sometimes the T just represents like tight. It's just gripping tension. And then L for me, so there's a scale. And I look at the alphabet as a scale of also the parallels. I feel like the M, which is more softer, is parallel to the L. So I have this theory where M equals to L. And the T, it's a plosive, equals a P. So I kind of plug them in. I do have a system for lehaki, to throw. So a lot of words with P's are like to puke. But I feel like the T sometimes can take the same role. I have a cross-linguistics approach. But I feel like the ka, lehaki, the ka, or the ta, does the same thing. So I have this theory of plosives, where basically the essence is the same, even if it's a different letter.
I think it's good stuff. You may have certain sections that'll be more academically rooted. You may have some that are less. You may have some, as you even said when you wrote to me, some that just say you think you're pushing it. All that's good. The Dalet and Zayin, of course, the Aramaic, that's the regular, Dahav and Zahav.
Tit and Shad, from what I've read, the Shad was a Tad. And it's again the protrusion. It's the essence, or tooth. In German, it's Zen, like Shen.
Yiddish, it's Zain.
Zain. So did it come from the Hebrew? Or do you say it's the essence? Like you have tooth and you have dental, you're touching the tongue. Does it have to be borrowing, or there's something about the tooth? Let's look at universals. Breath should be breath. And then there's ideal just in general, soft versus harsh. Hard stuff have more harshness, like stone. A lot of words in English, ST. Stiff, stone, stress. There's a lot of STs. So that's
Stark.
So there's one essence is just harshness. So like as far as making language universal, there's soft, essence of softness, like L, like lull. So language at its very basic, I would argue, and this should be studied eventually, like do words with more tension have more tension in them? It goes back to mind-body. The body's tense, so you create words. Or even I was thinking the word cold, ka, is there a reflection in the body, the coldness, that the language is picking up on it? It's like also defining what's the ideal and what would be intuitive or should be, or create one in the future, something to measure against what should be, or how within a complex system of sounds, and you only have a limited amount of sounds, how could it work? And part of what I say is it seems like the first letter, it seems to be like not every letter is equal. It just seems also based on observation. Like the first letter often seems to set the tone, or the last. So like touch, for example. The word touch, you're touching. Or naga, again, you're starting with contact.
So how do you have touching from touch?
No, like the tongue is touching, but there's an immediate contact. So touching is being mirrored by the tongue. In a sense, I think of the tongue as a finger, as a gesturing device, taking it outside the mouth and saying, it's literally a finger. Even walk, lech. Lech and walk are almost the same. Think of the LK and the lach. I feel like they're really regel, and leg, but I feel it goes back to the essence of the tongue. I feel like the tongue is a leg, literally. The tongue is walking. Anyway, so I do enjoy it deeply, so that's part of it. I love it, and
I hear you.
I do want to put it out, and
I
that's
can
why.
tell.
And I should do these videos, put it out to the world, and short ones.
Or even short little units, and then you'll build up little units into a book, whatever. Do it unit by unit. I don't know. I think it'll be appreciated. I kind of like it myself. So remember Fishbane.
Fishbane. So he was saying, like, forget about that, academics, basically, or like, don't worry too much about it. It's about.
Well, as he got older, he was looking more for the meaning, and where that goes. And he was also saying he was no longer in the state where he, worried about the academic. He didn't have to, but